In the Twin Cities, Fort Snelling honored fallen veterans today with a ceremony this morning. Ahead of that ceremony, thousands of volunteers placed flags at every headstone in the cemetery. That means nearly 200,000 flags in total. That new tradition began back in 2015. Fort Snelling Rifle Squad Commander Richard Middleton delivered the keynote address. And before that ceremony, U.S. Senator Amy Klobuchar visited her dad's grave at Fort Snelling. Jim Klobuchar grew up on the Iron Range, and he served in Germany during the Korean War before going on to write about other veterans as a renowned newspaper columnist. Klobuchar says it's important to remember that people are still making the ultimate sacrifice for their country, and that includes Minnesotan Nicole Amor, who died in an Iranian strike on U.S. troops in Kuwait.
I talked to her husband Joey this morning, and they're honoring Nicole and going to the gravesite. So there are families like that who recently lost someone all over Minnesota in the last few decades.
And Klobuchar says when a soldier is deployed, their whole family is deployed as well. In Wisconsin, people filled the state capitol to mark Memorial Day today. People dressed in historic uniforms led a formal entry procession as a band played. Wisconsin's Veterans Memorial Cemeteries, including the one in Spooner, also held ceremonies today. Those events marked Wisconsin's military role in America's 250-year history.